Right, the purpose of this video is to introduce you to the AeroJudge, the digital IMAC and LSA scoring system to replace paper-based scoring. What you can see here is a semi-prototype of a scoring device. This unit consists of 10 buttons, obviously the screen, and it's based off a Raspberry Pi. On the bumper side of the buttons, we've got two buttons, left and right, for previous and next. Using those buttons, we can scroll between pilots, and you'll see on various other screens how we can scroll between maneuvers and sequences. At the moment, there are only two pilots configured on the unit, but I'll shortly show you how we add additional pilots to the system and how we configure a competition. On the front of the unit, we've got 10 buttons. On the left-hand side, we've got positive value buttons. We've got a plus 0.5, plus 1, and a not observed button. On the third button from the top, you'll see we've got a figure or caller button, and this button is used to call out the sequence, which I'll demonstrate later. On the right hand side, we've got our negative buttons. We've got minus 0.5, minus 1, 0, and break. In order to use the scoring device, this is paired and comes in tandem with the score software, which is maintained by Dan Carroll. For the AeroJudge to integrate with Score, the Score version needs to be of a minimum version of 5.2 and above, and this version is constantly being changed as we upgrade and make amendments to AeroJudge. Looking at Score, you can see on the front screen we've got the standard setup of the various schedules from basic to sportsman. We've got also the same standard pilot setup page, and you can see that the number of pilots here reflect what we saw inside the AeroJudge. Then we've got the enter flight scores page. This is where the actual scoring is captured. And then we have the services page. This is the page we use to enable the AeroJudge to communicate with the score service. So what we'll do is we'll set up a few pilots just to demonstrate how AeroJudge communicates with the pilots, and we'll configure a new competition. Once you've imported all your sequences that you're going to consume or use for the competition, and you've set up your pilots, so let's just set up 3 more pilots. We ensure that we save the data file so it's saved to the system. And now that you see I've got 5 new pilots set up, and my services are started and configured for AeroJudge. If we go back to AeroJudge, and just to confirm, you'll see that I've still only got, if I press the bumper, I've still only got 2 pilots on here. So what we're going to do now on the AeroJudge system is we are going to go into the competition creation menu. So we'll click on here. This is the competition creation menu. On the competition page, you'll notice we've got some menu options here. For now, we're only going to focus on the update and new. We're going to focus on the global scoring, and then obviously sequences per round. The sequences per round slider allows us to change the number of sequences that we are going to fly per round for known sequences. So we're going to set it to 2 known sequences. We're going to leave it at global scoring, and then we have the option to update or create a new competition. By selecting new competition, when we click start, this is going to overwrite any existing scores and set up a new competition. When I click start, the AeroJudge will now connect to the score and retrieve the list of sequences that you inputted earlier and the list of pilots. If you now look at the pilots, and I use the next or previous button, you'll notice we now have all 5 pilots, pulled through into AeroJudge. If we find that we've already started a competition with a couple of pilots and they've already flown sequences, and we need to add a pilot, that's simple enough. We can go back to score, and we can go into pilots, and we can add an additional pilot. So we'll just obviously make this pilot 6. any class, doesn't matter. Save the files, and we can return again back to AeroJudge. And all we have to do this time is we can go to the menu, and in the top right hand side we've got this refresh button. By refreshing that, this will connect back to AeroJudge and re-pull all the pilot information without overwriting the existing scores. And you will now notice we have pilot 6 included into our sequences. So now that we've got the competition set up and we're ready to do some flights, for the judges, the first thing they would do is they would select the pilot that they are going to be scoring. We'll start with basic. Let's actually just take one that's a little bit more complicated. We'll start with intermediate, and the judges will then select judge. They're presented with a screen where they can indicate which direction that the competition is going to be flown in, left to right, right to left. This toggle will correct the images that we'll see later on the direction of entry for each maneuver. So we'll just select left to right, it's fine. And then we have the ability to select the kind of sequence we want to fly. Right now we're only going to focus on knowns. So if we select knowns,
now judging intermediate known sequence,
you'll see that it'll load the first figure with the image and the score starting and the name of the image, the name of the figure. Again, the bumper buttons allows us to scroll left or right between images, and I'm going to do that. And what you'll notice is that we have some audio feedback as well.
Figure 2, hammerhead. Figure 3, loop. Figure 4, Humpty Bump.
So if we go back now to figure 1,
horizontal S,
and the pilot now calls in the box. From this perspective, the scoring is as simple as the judges would start correcting or applying penalties against the pilot based on what they perceive in the sky or what they're seeing. So, for example, if the pilot's creating some errors, they would start deducting in half points. It's up to the judges' preferences whether they want to use a combination of -1, -5. If you make an error, you can come and add a point back. So let's say I do 3 pushes instead of 2.
8, 7.
And realize I'm too low and I need to come back 1. We can just press the +1,
8.
And it'll take it back to 8.
7.5.
And those are the half deductions.
6.5. 8.5.
You've got the 0 button.
0.
Break.
Break. Not observed.
Not observed. And then obviously we can go back up to number
7.
Right, then the figure button on the side here is the actual caller. So switching between
figure 2, hammerhead.
Between figures, we'll only read the figure number, so the number the figure's on, and the name of the maneuver.
Figure 1, horizontal S.
But the figure button here is actually the caller. So this gives us the ability to call out the entire sequence for the judge with a pause feature.
Inverted entry with negative snap on entry.
Paused it.
Pull a 5/8 inside loop into a 45-degree upline.
And then obviously the judge can wait until the pilot is in the 45-degree upline.
Push 5/8 outside loop. 2 a 4-point roll with opposite a half roll on exit.
He waits till the pilot's completed that.
Exit inverted.
And once he's finished scoring, he will click next to the
figure
next
2.
maneuver.
Hammerhead.
And the same applies.
8, 7 point. Push into a vertical upline. 4 a 4-point roll on 7. The upline. 6 stall turn into vertical downline, nothing on the downline. Push to exit inverted.
And what you'll notice is that even while the caller is calling out the entire sequence, which we still have a pause stop-start functionality, by deducting points from the pilot, the caller is still overlaying her voice over the deduction, so you can track both.
Figure 3. Loop 9.5. 9. Push outside loop with 2 of 2-point roll integrated at top of 8. Loop. 7.5. Exit inverted. Figure 4. Humpty Bump. Push into a vertical upline. 3/4 roll on upline. Push a half outside loop into a vertical downline. 2 a 4-point roll on downline. Pull to exit upright into crossbox.
Right, and you get the idea. Once the audio is finished, you can actually resume it by pressing the resume button again.
Push into a vertical upline.
Right, And then once you've gone through all the buttons, the last two maneuvers, so once you've gone through all the figures, we can come to figure 11, which is your sound. And what you'll notice here is that the negative 0.5 or plus 0.5 deductions don't work. You have to do
9,
whole numbers.
8,
So you would
6,
score the sound for the pilot.
7. Airspace control.
You do the same for airspace
8,
control.
6.
And then the next button will take you to the review screen. On the review screen, we have the ability between sequences to review the score, go back and make an amendment.
7.
And then again, press the next button to resume. And if you accept the scores, if you're satisfied with the scores, we can click save. And what will happen is
Now judging intermediate known sequence.
It'll go over to sequence 2, and you can see up here if it's clear enough. Round 1, sequence 2, and then it's giving us the direction of flight, the schedule of flight. And again, we just score the pilot and listen to the maneuvers.
7. Inverted entry with negative snap on entry. 6.5. Pull a 5/8 inside loop into a 45-degree upline. 5.5. Push 5/8 outside loop. 5. 2. A 4-point roll with opposite a half roll on exit.
And then again, once we've finished, we get back to the end of the maneuver.
Sound.
And again, here we can just do the whole deductions on the sound,
5.
deductions on the airspace control. And lastly, we come back to the review screen, and you have the same option. You can review, edit your scores for any
7.
deductions. Let's say
Figure 10.
This one you're not observed. You can come back and adjust it.
Sound. Figure 9.
You can zero this one, for example, and then come back to the end and save your results. Once it's saved the results, what you'll see is that we'll return back to the pilot screen. We will always default alphabetically to the first pilot at this point. We are looking for a filter system or an ordering system. And then you'll notice that this is the pilot that we judged, and you'll see that this pilot is now indicating that his next time we push judge, we're going to be judging round 2 sequence 1. Once you have completed all scoring of all the judges, of all the pilots, and you're ready to upload, and you can do this, you can do the uploads at any point. It doesn't have to be at the end of all pilots. It can be on a per pilot basis, but it is as simple as we would click on this button, and then we've got this upload option here. We can push upload, and this will push the scoring system to score. If we go back to score, what you'll see in score is that we can do an import. So this would have pushed data here. We can do an import into score. This will give us some information. And if we come back to scores, and we did pilot 3, and we were judge 2, you'll notice that there are the scores that I inputted for the pilot. So the scores are now captured for that pilot. Each aero device itself has a judge ID. This specific unit here was judge ID 2. That's why you can see under judge 2 for pilot 3, we've got the rounds 1 and rounds 2 for that judge. What we can see is that if we go into judge 1 and judge 2, they don't exist. And just to show you, if I go back to pilot 1 and I go to judge 2, nothing exists there. If I quickly score for pilot 1, just go through it. I'm not going to do any live scoring. Actually,
now judging basic known sequence.
Let me go back to the home. Let's do this again. I just want to show you that if I change the direction, score known again, you'll see that the direction of flight has now changed. And again, I can just go through this quickly. I'm not going to do any scoring. And save that.
Figure 10.
And save that. And you'll see pilot 1 is now onto round 2 sequence 1, sorry. So he's finished round 1. And again, push and upload, which I did to score. If I show you the score system again, just go to the services tab. I'll click import and import the scores. You can see that it's picked up the file info. And if I go into pilot 1, you'll see that there's the scores that were captured for pilot 1. And that's it. That's as simple as it is. That's how the device works. Thank you.